Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
Quick look at NVAX here. Pretty tough chart because it's so choppy and so erratic and wild, but a few things that I'd maybe call out here. This previous uptrend support, when it broke, it really broke, and then kind of, the highs weren't ever able to make it back to the previous highs in that swing. And right now, it's just had a couple of tests of this similar pattern. So I don't know if it's going to continue to come down far enough to try to test this, but if it does, some potential support zones that I look for along the way: 172.16, 150.50. The most immediate, I guess, resistance, because it's a little bit above, is this 189.12, and then 214.99 above that. But yeah, really choppy, kind of rough chart to look at, to be honest, because it's so erratic. Sometimes I like to pull in the Ichimoku cloud when this is the case. Golden rules here with Ichimoku cloud. You see this goldish conversion line. It's easier to see over here. This goldish conversion line has crossed above this yellow baseline, and that's considered a buy signal. Now it's woven like below it and above it while it's been in the cloud here. So I would consider this sort of like a moderate buy signal that this particular indicator is showing at the moment. Pretty thin support and resistance over here. The thinner the cloud, the thinner the support and resistance. But it is right around that level that we have charted here. And then the other sort of golden rule for Ichimoku cloud is that you don't trade when it's within the cloud. So the idea here, if you are using this indicator, would be to let it either make its way out the top of the cloud or out the bottom of the cloud, and then look for buy or sell signals with the crossover like I talked about on either ends of that spectrum. So sometimes when things look uncertain to me, I pull this in to sort of help, and this sort of reconfirms the sit and wait sort of idea that I would have even without looking at that, just because it's so erratic and so choppy. It's kind of hard to tell what it wants to establish at this point. All right, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but catch you later. All right, quick look at IBM here. Interesting chart, interesting reversal at the moment. I would say that this level here was probably the most important, this 127.61, as it's established over that today. That seems like it was a pretty clear previous topping out level, and now it's sort of wrestling with this next level up, this 128.92, which is what I would say is currently its most closest in support level. Now, if it is able to continue the rally, there's a couple of things I'd look at. One, is it able to continue this really steep uptrend support? And that could even, it could even do that with some pulling back, obviously, right? And then if it's able to hold that, I look for this 130.36 to flip, and then it looks like it has some decent run room there to 133. So that's what I'd look for to the upside. If it does break to the downside, again, this uptrend support could certainly hold, but this 127.61 would be downside support, and then 126.25, and then 125.17. And I went back and plugged these all in from looking at this price activity back here. So seems to be pretty solid levels from what I could pull out and then look at for today's price action. So yeah, IBM, nice reversal. We'll see if it can keep it up. Peace. All right, folks, here's a quick look at UiPath as I see it now. On the daily chart here, you see just an incredible sell-off this past year or so, from $90 here back in May. And yeah, just a pretty tough chart for the bulls anyway. But to my mind, what it looks like, it's trying to curl here, trying to cup. It needs to break this downtrend resistance, right? This has been sort of the plague that's been holding it down recently since about beginning of November. And the good news here potentially is that this 41.67 was the clear resistance level, right? Now this is just a few days, so I don't know that this is going to actually trend reverse, but it broke this at the moment. And if it can continue to build over 41.67, then that could certainly give an opportunity. Now it does have another level right here at about 43.05. It's hard to tell because the price is right there, but If it can flip that from resistance to support, then it could give it some distance from this recent sort of lowest resistance level that it was encountering. And, whether it consolidates its way out from underneath this downtrend or it can continue to move up and burst through the top of this, that could give the bulls some movement or some hope. But certainly if it can't, I would look to see what it does at that 41.67 level if it needs to retest that. And if it can't hold that, it's probably looking at testing around $40 as a next level down, though it's hard to tell because there's not a lot to go off of, if you scroll left, which is usually my move. But I mean, it's just lower than it has been previously, so sort of like in new low territory. But that's what I look for the time being. All right, peace. All right, taking a quick look at REAL here. Real has been stuck under a downtrend for most of the year, and this downtrend resistance, you see it's tested several times here, and it did this very typical thing where it gapped up, tested it, and fought with it for several days, fell back below, confirmed it as resistance, and then sold off quite significantly. So even though it's up, over 9.5% today, it needs to, if it wants to have like sustained run, in my opinion, it's going to need to break and then move away from this downtrend resistance and leave it behind, as opposed to just kind of like weaving back and forth between it like it did here. Now, I don't know when it might hit that. It could hit it here in the 13s, could encounter it down here in, like the 12s or even the 11s, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see how it wants to move, and if there's anything to the rally that we're seeing today. Now, some levels I'd call out, this is sort of recent resistance, previous support, now recent resistance you see here, and it's going to be approaching that level pretty soon. That's 1149. If we scroll back, that level holds up quite well in this area too. If it loses that level, there's kind of thin levels. I don't know that this would be that strong here at like 1095, so I'll dot that. Clearly I haven't done this in a long time. I'll dot that in case it's not that strong. This to me would be the stronger level down based on what we're seeing here, this like 1021. So that's what I would look for. Yeah, that's what I would look for on REAL. Like I said, biggest key to my mind is breaking this downtrend resistance, but it has quite a ways to go if it wants to do that. I guess we could put in a couple to the top side here that would help it reach that level. 1333 would be a good flip from resistance to supports, and then probably something right around here at like 1230. So it has a bunch to flip there. 1149, I think we said. Yeah, 1149 from resistance to support, and then 1230, 1333. Otherwise, it needs these as support below. All right, catch you later. All right, quick check-in on PLBY here. Now, not to clutter up the chart too much, I tried to keep it pretty clean and simple. Now, trend line-wise, I see an uptrend support holding here. It's relatively tight into that at the moment, though it would be below this support line. And then downtrend resistance here. So basically, this is forming a triangle here, or a wedge, and it could live in here for quite some time. This doesn't look like it will wedge out if it wants to maintain its price action within this wedge until like May or so of 2022. So it could live in here for quite some time. Similarly, I see 2680, the like nearest in support level here, and 3019 as the closest resistance level, and I could see it sort of like living in that space for quite some time. You see it did here previously and here, and sort of in the middle it had this little dip that established this uptrend support. So I don't know if it'll live between those two for a while, but it would certainly keep it within this wedge for quite some time. And if it does break to the downside, I'd look for this uptrend support to hold. If it doesn't, we could come back and take another look at it. But it might be something like right around here-ish, like $24 or so might hold. If not, something around the $21 level, most likely. And then to the upside, like I said, 3019, then 3358. If it's able to make a run and try to flip the next, from resistance to support, much like it would have to do at 3019, then it could give it an opportunity to break the wedge sooner. But yeah, for now it looks like it's just kind of snoozing in this range that's kind of constricting over time, and we'll see where it wants to break. All right, peace. All right, so taking a look at Couchbase here, it's been caught in this really unfortunate downtrend as of late, and the big thing that I would look for if it's going to sort of reverse trend here is that it establishes a candle outside of this downtrend resistance, and even then what we often see is if it establishes out that it just comes down and starts following it back down, or even sometimes falls back into it. So I would look for it to establish some movement out of the downtrend resistance and then start to work itself away, and whether that means that it just works itself sideways and away from it, or for some reason has a big pump up and continues to move away from it to the upside. To me, that's the biggest thing, because otherwise it's just going to continue to get caught under this downtrend and lose this sort of low support level here at $21. Now, the nearest in support level that I see is $21.98, maybe that sort of psychological $22 level at this point. To the upside, there's like some decent run room, just meaning like there's not a ton of clear resistance levels before $24.52. And similarly, it's kind of a similar situation, the run room between $24.52 and $27.50. And then, of course, I have $29.13 up there beyond that. So definitely spaces for run room, but I do think that by and large, the foremost important thing is for it to get out from underneath this downtrend resistance, which it's got some work to do to make that happen, at least from like a percentage change base, but we'll see if it can do it. All right, peace. All right, folks, quick check-in in IONQ today. Now, what I look for here, I threw in a few key levels and then a trend. It is looking like it's trying to base into this range right here, but you never know. I mean, it's pretty herky-jerky on these. You see several of them here before, and then it's always breaking to the downside. So the advantage to sort of basing within a range is that you can then pick out the next movement because it breaks that range with a strong movement. Now, that doesn't mean it breaks it to the upside or to the downside. It just means that it breaks it in one direction or another, but you don't necessarily know what direction that is. So the advantage is that you can catch the break, but it's no crystal ball that you know which way it's going to go. Now, the most important thing, as I see it, for this to try to actually reverse trend is to break this downtrend resistance that you see it's tested several times here and keeps bouncing off of. And I don't know if or when it will approach it at this point, but if it is able to get some supports, what I am looking at here, the tightest in level is this like 1594. It's right on top of it, so it's kind of hard to see, but it's this blue line here. That's what I look for it to continue to build support off of if it's going to hold. If not, 1505 is the next level down as I see it, and then 1415 below that if it needs it. That's a pretty significant drop percentage-wise. So I would just keep an eye, and then if it gets below that, we could take another look at it, but it's probably something down around the $12 range. At least based on, this little bit of action that we can pull from in historical price activity. 1725 to the upside of it can flip that 1594 to very clean supports, and that would probably require it, or that would definitely at this point require it to break this downtrend resistance and make a run at that 1725. Now, if it can flip that from resistance to support, we could come in and look at some new levels. It would probably be something around 18.5 or so to the upside. All right, hope that helps. Catch you later.